that, but we don't. My name is Scott Mendenhall, and this is...
My name is Lily Weiner, and welcome to Unlock Church.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. We should say unlockchurch.com
That's
or
right.
Unlock Church YouTube channel. Nonetheless, good morning. Thank you
here.
to everybody that's jumped over from the One Wheel video on racing all the different
That was a fun one.
It was a
fun
fun
to
one.
switch it up.
I learned a lot that I like the One Wheel, and it seems to be far superior.
It just
in
is.
multiple conditions. So
far superior.
It's not biased, but we aren't alone. We got the other two that always bring the humor as well. On the other side of the studio, what do you know about the race today?
Good morning, everybody! This is
Scott.
Kristen.
This is Joey.
Did you know they
We
were
planned
they rehearsed
that.
We did.
Yeah, you could tell there was like this countdown of like...
Well, also, you asked, what do you know about the race?
we did not
I
answer
said, good
it.
morning.
No, because it always.
Because we're always saying different things, and we're like, we're gonna
And then
plan
we're like,
it.
what are
and
we
then,
gonna say?
of course, Scott asks.
And then we don't
Well, right.
introduce ourselves, and it's a hot mess. So me and Joey are like, no matter what Scott asks us, we need to say this.
Yeah.
And we did.
I mean, it's good.
But the
You
race
guys are
was
amazing.
Race
the race
was
was good. It was a lot of fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
what was your favorite to ride in? Over all the 4 different elements, which one did you guys prefer?
Well, I didn't ride the XR. I rode everything else, but I love the Pint. I still don't know if I'd like.
Yeah,
the
you know, I love the XR, but the bike was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I liked the XR
It's
a
just
lot more,
too
and the
much.
Pint. I mean, the XR and the Pint.
How
are
about
fun.
you, Lily?
I liked the XR. The XR on God's Bowl, that was so much fun. I think we should try that again.
On the XR?
Yeah, we should do that again.
Maybe we will. I gotta go One Wheel, either one. I pulled a victory out on the Pint and the XR,
Yes,
so
you did.
I'm okay.
You pulled a victory.
They're
Do you want to hear it one more time?
Yeah, I
You
like to
pulled
hear
a
it. Yeah, that's
victory
good.
out.
That's
Yeah,
good. Thank
good
you.
job.
Thank you. Hey, well, you know,
The winner.
One of our fun phrases that we say in those races is right here.
Yeah,
Let's
look
get
at
it
that.
started.
I love it.
Would you like to see what's on the back of these hoodies?
Would you
Let's
like
have
to see
Joey
it?
turn around. He's got one on today. Oh, he's a little short. Joey, get on your tiptoes.
Joey, tiptoe.
There
Look
it
at
is.
that. It's all of us as cartoon characters.
So
And it says
cool.
Scott Mendenhall and Friends.
Because we race together.
That looks awesome. Scott, how do I get one of those?
I don't know yet. If we have enough likes on it, we'll mass produce them.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you want one, you better let us know.
Yes, it might be coming. These are prototypes for figuring out colors and stuff. I'll give you the back. I don't know if you can see. Do I need to stand on an apple box?
Yep, just a little bit more. Yeah, that looks awesome.
So, okay.
So good.
So good.
Love
If
it.
you are watching all around the world, which we know you are because some of you said you're watching from California, somebody said France, so that's
Yes.
pretty cool.
Welcome.
We would love to see your faces in a picture because then we'll put them on screen and share who's watching around the world. The number is on the screen or someone will put it in the chat. There's a live chat going on at the same time on Sunday morning. If you're watching it, you can jump into there and talk to people. People will say hello to you. And then this number, if you have any questions throughout the day, it can be about Unlock Church, it could be about Lily, and it could be about Kristen or Joey or me or What is a Noob. We got people there that will answer those. The number is on the screen. Send in your pictures. We want to know where you're watching. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to post your pictures so you get to see where heaps of people are watching around the world. We know that here locally, we've got 4 house parties going on today,
Awesome.
which is pretty
So
rad.
good.
Which a
Yes.
house party is a group of people coming together in a house,
what you're
eating,
watching.
watching what you're
So
watching,
cool.
and probably
Eating,
laughing
snacks.
and making fun of us as they watch. So.
Probably true.
Thank you
Okay.
to everyone logging in and being a part of today's events on Unlock Church's YouTube channel. We're
Yeah.
pretty amped to
So
have
good.
you.
It's going to be a great morning.
It's going to be a really fun one. The topic is how do we handle depression and shame and guilt, because that's all kind of intertwined, so that's what we're going to talk about today.
It's a big one.
Before we get there, we have some other great videos. We have live music, and all of it is to hopefully take you from where you're sitting and allow you to wrestle with the question, what is Jesus saying to you? What are you going to do about it? And maybe you're sitting and go, I don't know about Jesus, and that's okay. We give you permission to be on a journey today, to sit here and argue with yourself, is Jesus real or not? We'll love to answer those questions, but we give you permission to start that journey today. So in that, remember we're talking about grace, shame, and depression. We got a great video of no words, just music, but a great illustration
Yes.
in a parenting moment of what grace looks like.
There's a lot to catch here, so pay attention.
Pay attention in it. There's a lot, but it's a visual of this is what grace looks like. So take a look at this and then get those pictures sent to us as well. All right, enjoy this video, guys.
All right. So
Love that. I
it is
love that
good.
video. It's such a great illustration of what grace looks like. Want to give a shout out to Obi from Wales.
Wow. That's awesome.
We're just
How's it
scrolling
going
really
over
quick
there?
through the. Do you know where Wales
England?
is? Is in
In the
England?
UK.
Is it part of
Oh.
England or separate?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No,
Okay.
it's actually I don't
What famous
Sorry,
movie?
I'm sorry, Obi.
What famous movie was cast of a character from Wales? Ooh, she doesn't know. Obi, would you help us with that? It's a famous movie. Maybe Mel Gibson was in it. You know,
Braveheart.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
It's
She-
also one of your favorites.
It's a
so.
great movie. I have no idea how accurate it is, but nonetheless, Obi, good to see you. Along with all the heaps of other people, the Vernon family, so good to see you in there. Zach in California, good to see you today. We have heaps of pictures coming in and one chat we want to put up on the screen. So let's start with the chat really fast. Right here, this is what Zach wrote earlier.
Yeah.
Also, the other favorite phrase, he's talking about this.
Best
Let's
of
get it
three.
started. Scott's other best phrase.
That's because when you lose, you want to go for a best of 3.
But that's how it's always, the races are wrote that way. You
Oh,
just
they
don't
are?
know that.
I just didn't know
There's
that.
always a clause. If Scott
What?
loses,
How can I get in
best
on
of
the
3.
way those races are written?
Well,
know,
I don't
how
know.
can
I don't know how you get in on that. It just you'll get to. We've got the iPad coming in really quick. Not sure how that even happened when it was muted. Oh, it's the phone. Okay, we're a hot mess. All the
Sounds
same
like
technology.
Inception.
Okay, and we got
Scott's
pictures. Sorry about that little glitch here. Let's throw up some pictures on the screen so you guys can enjoy other people around the world watching.
All
Here's
right.
one of the viewing parties happening,
That is a good-looking viewing party.
except for the Packer jersey in the background.
Yes, look
There
at that.
we go, we
They're
got-
straight flexing
They
right
are.
now.
They're
Love
flexing. If you
It.
only.
And Dan, just noticed you have a 116 tattoo. That's awesome.
We have somebody
So
in a
good.
construction. I don't know who the person
Yeah,
is.
next picture.
Thank you.
Looking
You-
well
you-
prepared for
Either
whatever it is you're
yeah,
heading
you're
to.
either working on electricity behind you, or going one wheeling,
Yeah.
or
It might be
it
Zach.
might be Zach.
Might be Zach.
We're guessing. We're
Yes.
guessing. Ooh, if it's
Either way, you look prepared for the day.
Bob the Builder.
Okay.
All right, we got
All
Vader
right,
making
that's
it in there.
Look at the dog just
The
chilling.
puppet just chilling.
Sweet.
Another great picture. Oh man, I
hi,
love seeing the
girls.
students.
Yes.
Oh man, so
So
good.
good. You
Yeah,
guys look
Minnesota.
great.
I see that. I see
I
the.
like your braids.
Okay, for those that are around the world, the Vikings,
Love
which is
it.
our local team playing.
Look at
Whoa,
that.
where's that been taken?
Wherever you are, I'm coming.
Yeah,
Because that
invite,
looks
please.
amazing.
That's somebody's backyard.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey,
So
look at
good.
that.
He's
Well
got
done.
both dogs on the couch.
Ready to rock and roll.
Yes. Look at that pup.
That is a great looking
I think that's
pup.
our new friend, Cheeky. Hey, girl. How you doing?
Oh, so good to
So
see
good.
you. That pup. What's the pup's name? Man, we got
Sarah,
so
hi,
many. Sarah, all the way up in
All the way to
Ely.
Ely. She said she saw a bear the other day.
Oh, speaking of a bear locally attacked a local beehive yesterday. Or not yesterday, this week.
Well, that
Attacked
sounds-
vicious. That was a little vicious, a little.
That sounds.
But I'm stoked
wild.
that bears are moving
Oh,
into my
hi,
neighborhood.
girls.
There's the ladies. We got them all happening
Hey,
today.
guys, looking good
okay.
today.
We have
So
heaps
fun.
more after the
So
teaching.
fun. I wish I could teleport to every single one of those places.
I know. I would
Don't
love
you?
to. I'd like to meet all the dogs as well. The dogs
Yes.
of Unlocked Church.
Yes.
So cool.
Put in the chat your dog's name. Okay,
Please
moving
do.
on.
Share your dog's name. What we would want you to do is keep sending in pictures throughout the rest of this, and after the teaching today, we're going to show them as well. So keep them coming. We love seeing your pups. We love seeing where
Yes,
you're
so
watching.
fun.
So rad that it's happening. We're going to transition to live music,
Yes.
which was
It's gonna be so good this morning.
pretty cool. If you're brand new around here and the whole, like we talked earlier, Jesus is a thing that you're trying to figure out, and you're like, worship is just weird to me. Like, I go to concerts and they don't do what they do. Worship is this. Let me kind of paint a picture. Worship is a moment where people that are followers of Jesus give worth back to God. That we're not saying, oh, we're giving worth to God because he makes everything perfect and new all the time. We're giving worth to God because God is God and we're not. It's a perspective thing. And also, we get to sing truths about what happens when in relationship with God. That's what a beautiful
Yeah,
thing about a lot
that's
of my
good.
favorite songs are, is that we're passing down to the generations Jesus principles, but in song form.
Yeah, I
And
like
so
that.
it's a different way of talking about our relationship with God. So
Awesome.
if you're brand new to the whole Jesus thing, just listen to the lyrics and ask yourself, what does it mean to you? And those that aren't brand new to it, sing along. Turn the volume up on your TV and sing with us. We invite you to do that. hang around. We're going to get to the topic of the day right after this, but we do have a video before the band comes out, so we would love for you to be able to check out this one, which is
All about worship.
it's going to just get us in that mindset. You'll enjoy this, I think. And then Brian, Kristen, and Jeff are going to be here singing with us. Check this out right here.
Look to the Lord and his strength. Seek his face always. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God. Great is the Lord in Zion. He is exalted over all the nations. Let us praise his great and marvelous name. For great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. Sing to him, sing praises to him, tell of all his wonderful acts.
Technical problems. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I still have a few things to plug in. Kristen, would you talk about
Sure.
this song for us, please?
For sure. Welcome, you guys. This is Hefe here, my friend Hefe. Well, his name's Jeff. I call him Hefe. It's a little joke we have. But I'm so glad you guys are here this morning. We're going to be doing the song Another in the Fire by Hillsong Worship.
Love it.
And I love this song because I think it's a super great song for especially what we're talking about today, depression, and just even talking about the Giants this week and the past couple weeks. And it just is a song that talks about that Jesus is always going to be in the fight with you. He's not going to leave you. He's going to be in the fire. He's going to be in the valleys with you. He's going to, all the tough times where you think he's like, where is Jesus at? He's there. And it's just a great song to remind us of that and maybe help us look for it a little bit more. So I think Brian is all set up because I can hear his guitar, and I think we're going to get started.
Yeah, it's so good, Kristen. Like what I was, like this song for me, what I was thinking is like just, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Whatever the fire is you're going through, whatever life is throwing at you, you're not alone. Like God is there with you.
Yep.
And that should like encourage us and fire us up and give us a boldness to live life like loudly and proudly and just be excited about what we get to do and know that God is with us.
Yeah.
So let's sing that.
There's a grace when my heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, the power set me free. There is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. Dead beneath the waters, I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I won't bow to the things of this world, 'cause I know, and I know I will never be alone. Another in the fire, standing next that holds nobody. Now power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Standing up. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, and I can see the light in the darkness. As the darkness bows to him, I can hear the roar in the heavens. As the space between within, I can feel the ground shake beneath us. As the prison walls cave in, nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. And I know I will never be alone. And I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. And I can see the light in the darkness. As the darkness bows to him, I can hear the roar of the heavens. As the space between within, I can feel the ground shake beneath us. As the prison walls cave in, nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. In the fire, standing next to me, there'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. Be another in the fire. Oh, be another in the fire. Oh, be another in the fire. Oh, be another in the fire.
Thank you guys so much for worshiping with us, and I hope you guys took that time to just crank it up and just sing out that there's another in the fire. He's there in the fight with you, and he's not going to leave you. And it's just a good reminder, if you're going through any battle right now that you feel like you're in a low valley or you just cannot see the end, he's in it with you. He has not left. Just a good reminder. So as we are continuing to talk about grace and shame and guilt and depression, here's a great video again talking about grace and kind of God's plan for grace all along. And then Scott's going to come up and talk about how we can grab a hold of that grace. So here's that video.
We are surrounded by an unseen force. It covers us in our day-to-day lives, whether we see it or not. Either way, this prescripted cosmic plan continues in the background of the universe. In a word, it's grace. But to understand this better, we must travel backwards in time, before technology, before mankind, before the existence of the world, before time or space, before the creation of the universe itself. Our understanding is that sin entered the world through man, and God has been trying ever since to implement his backup plan. But what if what we thought was a contingency was actually God's original intention all along? What if his plan of grace was going to be his ultimate expression of love? What if this cosmic countermeasure was set in motion long before sin ever entered the world? In the beginning is where we find the origins of grace, a grace that was the plan before creation, before mankind, and before the garden.
All right, how's everybody doing? I hope you enjoyed that song. I love the lyrics in that song, so good. That team of singers, or what we would call in church, the worship team, it's so good to be able to sing with all of you. I hope you're turning your TVs up or wherever you're watching on your phone. Thank you for all the pictures, engaging with us today and being in the chat room. It really creates that community that we as Unlock Church are trying to create even in a digital capacity. So thank you for everyone doing those things. Today we are in week 3 of what we are around here talking about giant slayers, or slaying your giants. We all have giants, and we talked about 3 weeks ago that giants don't take days off. They don't take moments off when you go to sleep. That giant in your life is there when you wake up. The giant's there and always reminding you that they're bigger than you and can beat you and all those different things. Those giants are right there in front of you. And over the last 2 weeks, we've been trying to give you tools on how to overcome your giant. So wherever you are watching in the world, and I don't know your giants, I need you to take the context of today and apply it. That today, I'm not a counselor. I am not a professional counselor. I will point you to Jesus. But on any topic, especially when we covered anxiety and now today depression, we want you to attack those things holistically, meaning all of it. To not just attack it spiritually, but maybe you need to change your diet because there are things that can trigger just this depression feeling in your life by what you eat. So you might need to check with somebody to change your diet. Maybe you need to see a counselor that you're just like, man, I've tried diet, I've tried reading scriptures, and I've tried what even you said, Scott, in the past, and it's not. Then you might need to see a counselor. So attack this giant holistically together, not just one piece of it, okay? So I want to say that at the beginning so you hear my heart on it, that I'm not going to come today and tell you that this is going to fix it all for sure. I think this is a great starting point, and I do believe if we take what Jesus has to say on the topic of guilt and shame and depression, well, it starts to set the trajectory of our life in a better direction, okay? I believe that we can pray through these things and see things change in our lives, and sometimes we do need to attack it holistically and have somebody that you can sit down at a table and share your real thoughts, where they can tell you, hey, this is what this thought will trigger in your life, okay? It's not embarrassing to go get help. It's actually a sign of strength. I think that when we find ourselves in a tight spot in our lives and we don't move to get help, it's really a sign of weakness, that we're embarrassed by what's going on, and that leads us to the opposite direction of success or unlocking our God-given greatness. It goes the opposite direction. Going and talking to someone or talking to a friend about what's going on in your life is success, is turning the ship around towards living a life that God has planned for you, okay? So I say that all at the beginning. We do have the chat room going right now that's live, so you can talk in there and go, hey, this is what I'm going through, and people will jump into your conversation and help you right where you are. And then we do have that phone number that will flash up really quick here, and then we'll put it in the chat room that you can text to. We're not going to leave the number up too long because when I go back and rewatch it, it feels like I'm a televangelist, and I just don't want to look like that. But we'll put it up there so that you can write it down somewhere, so that if you have a question, we have people standing by right now that will jump into the conversation and would love to pray with you. We'd love to give you other verses that might help, or be able to help you find a local counselor to help you take the next step. Here locally in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, we have tons of counselors/therapists that we would love to point you to help you with your things going on in your life, okay? So don't do life alone. We talk about that all the time here. Don't do life alone. We've got Kristen on the other side of the studio. She's going to help today on the topic. So I'm glad to have Kristen with us. So you might see her standing over there. Why is she standing? It's because she is going to be a part of today's topic, okay? let's answer the question right away as we come back to me. Answering the question, is depression a sin? If you struggle with thoughts of, I'm guilty, I'm unforgivable, is that a sin? No. It is paralyzing and polarizing, but it is not a sin. It actually is a weight that we put on ourselves that just drags us down. We said a few weeks ago when we talked about facing your giants of anxiety, the root of anxiety is fear, and fear wrangled in. The fear leads to anxiety. Anxiety then leads to more fear, which is this circle, and you just get more anxious, and you fear of the future, and your brain just keeps feeding these stories that aren't even real yet, but you tell the story without Jesus. That's a lot of problems with the anxiety stories in our lives, is that we're telling a story without Jesus, who sits on the throne 24/7. All the time, everything that's going on in the world right now, all the craziness that you're just like, what is happening? Jesus didn't take a week off. He didn't take off in March 15th, at least in the United States, where we had the shutdown of everything. Jesus wasn't up there going, I'm just going to snowboard through the month of March and then I'll come back. He wasn't doing that. He's still sitting on the throne. He's still sitting in the throne as you go through things. So you got to tell stories with Jesus sitting on the throne, and that will change the fear stories that you're going to tell yourself. And then when it comes to depression, it's the shame. I can't forgive myself for what I did in high school. I feel guilty for the way my marriage ended. I feel guilty the way my marriage is going now. I feel guilty the way I'm raising my kids. I feel guilty the way I treated that person when I was back in high school. And we just compound the guilt on our lives, and then it becomes a weight that we just can't handle. And what happens is then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. You feel bad for feeling shameful, and it doesn't stop. And so today we want to put a stop to those things. We want to help you fight and win your giant of depression and guilt and shame. I believe that when we attach ourselves to Jesus fully, 100%, we are reminded that He is grace. He's the definition of grace. And so in my notes today, I want to make sure that we all have a working definition of grace. I wrote it like this: grace, the free and unmerited favor of God as manifested in the salvation of sinners and the bestowal of blessings. You're like, that is so, what did you just say, Scott? It sounds so churchy, but it's really not churchy. It's just a biblical definition of what grace is, okay? So take off any cynicalism that if that's a word, I don't know if that's a word, but if you're cynical about Jesus and about church, take that hat off for a second, okay? Don't look at this through the lens of, I'm going to question that Jesus is, no, just for all of us right now, just pretend that you believe that Jesus is the Son of Man, that He died on the cross and rose again, okay? So that you don't argue out these things, just think about it. In that context, I want to put the definition back up, and I'm going to break it down for you so it makes a little bit more sense, but inside grace with Jesus through the lens we're looking through, okay? So the definition today we're working with grace is this: free and unmerited favor of God. Let's pause there. Grace is unearned. That means you can do nothing for this grace, which a lot of us struggle with. Well, no, I don't like free. We do these summer camps as we go back to full screen on me. We go to these summer camp. We do these summer camps here at Unlock Church. We did digital this year. We did in the parks last year, a couple years ago. We've been doing them, and it's a lot of fun. But they're free, and a lot of people struggle with free. They're like, I'm not bringing my kids unless I can pay for it. I don't want free handouts. I just don't want. We, especially in the United States, we struggle with free. And it's what is a bummer about that is that when it comes to free grace from Jesus, then here's the people struggle with, no, I got to do something to earn it. With God, you cannot earn His grace. It's free and unmerited, meaning we actually deserve the opposite of grace, but we get it. It's unearned. Kristen, I'm going to ask you, why? Like Kristen has shared her story. A little bit of context, right? And I want her on the screen so you can see her, I'm not like throwing her dirty laundry out and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. But we were talking, and you just shared back in your 8th grade freshman year in high school, you spent a year of just being quiet, right? Well, can you shed us some light on that, and then I'm going to ask about why is grace so hard to understand. Okay, so give us a little bit of your story.
So back in 8th grade, middle school, 6th grade, I was super talkative. Had friends, talked to people. 7th grade, not as much. I had a couple friends, and then 8th grade, I just absolutely talked to nobody. I would go to school, and I would be silent the whole day, and only talk when someone asked me a question, and that's it. I just wouldn't talk. And then 9th grade, the same thing. And I knew the people in my classes, I just didn't talk to them, and I could not get out of this like mental state that I was like, I'm just gonna be quiet and I'm gonna be shy and I'm just not gonna say anything. And that was just what it was. And now, in the present future, now I know when I'm looking back at 8th grade and 9th grade, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was depressed for 8th and 9th grade, and I had no idea. And I didn't have any idea because I didn't talk to anybody about it. I was very, very shy in middle school and high school. And I know you guys probably don't believe me, but I was very shy, and I just didn't talk a lot in general. So then when I was depressed, I was just completely shut down, and it was super frustrating for everyone around me because I didn't know what I was feeling, but I also wasn't telling them what I was feeling. So,
and I remember that
story.
this period in your life, some of the context between Kristen and I, when we lived in Miami, Florida area, I was a youth pastor, and she was a student, and she came in 6th grade, and we moved to Minnesota on her senior year, which she let us know she was disappointed in that. But now she lives here in Minnesota, and her family is phenomenal. They were leaders on our student team, and so we've been connected with Kristen. I remember we arrived to this in a conversation maybe 3 weeks ago, where we were talking, and she's like looking back in her life going, oh yes, I now know I struggle with depression. And it wasn't a moment of like embarrassment for you, was it? It was more of an aha moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just like a realization. I was like, it just all made sense to me. It like put all the pieces together, and then everything. I was like, oh my gosh, now this decision that I made makes sense because I was depressed, or like even the way I acted, or all these things. I was like, all of it makes sense now. And it wasn't just a period of my life where I was like, oh, I was just super quiet and I never talked to anybody and I don't know why. And now I just know. And so it just is a little bit, helps me put the pieces together now in the future.
And what I love about Kristen today, and I've double checked, like, and triple checked with her, are you okay being vulnerable in front of the world? Because we have no idea actually who's watching. Are you okay to put your stuff out there, to put your mess out there? Because I didn't want to put her on blast, because this is a bit of a sensitive deal. I want to make sure everyone understands this is her being vulnerable, so that any of you that are going through this can also learn from her. And she's not coming today going, I got it all together, look at me.
I don't.
She's not coming from that platform. She's coming from, hey, I'm in the middle of it, and I want to teach people or share my story. And so maybe some of you need to be vulnerable today and just share, I struggle with this too. And watch how people will love on you in the chat today, or leave a comment down below on this video. So, Kristen, in light of all of that, and learning that depression is rooted in guilt and shame, how hard is it for you to hear when somebody says grace is unmerited and undeserving? Is that hard for you to process?
That is probably the hardest thing for me ever. I don't know why, and it's probably just the way I'm wired, and this is why I do struggle with depression, but I feel like everyone else in the world deserves grace. But I don't feel like I deserve grace. And I don't know why. And then when I feel like I don't deserve grace, and then now that I talk with Scott sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't feel like, and he was like, it's breaking Jesus's heart that you're not taking his grace. And then the fact that I'm breaking his heart breaks my heart again, and then I feel guilty for breaking his heart, and then it doesn't make me feel better. So then it's just like this cycle of feeling guilty because I'm disappointing someone, I'm disappointing Jesus, I'm disappointing people in my life, or I'm disappointing everyone. Because sometimes I put the weight of everyone being disappointed in me on myself, and I don't need to. And then it just becomes this cycle of feeling guilty that I disappointed people. And I might not have disappointed them, but in me thinking that I disappointed them, then I shut down, and I kind of like distance myself from people, and then that is when I disappoint people, because then I'm just not communicating and I'm not being a good friend, because we're still supposed to be Jesus followers and love on people even when we're going through all our mess, which is super hard, but it's something I've learned.
And there again, she just talks about the circle, right? And that's what we got to break, is the circle of I feel guilty, I'm letting people know, I feel guilty again, I feel shame, and we just keep going around and around and around. And if you don't break the cycle, it leads you into really, really dangerous areas. With depression leads to, at the ultimate, like at its worst, is suicidal thoughts and just continues down the road. And that is what we want to jump in. As in the recent months, they have released information that the suicide rate is climbing in an astronomical rate. And we want to jump in there and say, pause. If that's you, if you're at that spot, man, reach out to somebody, text that phone number. We want to jump in and say, hold on, you're worth fighting for? You're important, you matter, we love you, we're doing what we're doing today, not because we have an agenda to push. It is not about, oh, we got X amount of people finding Jesus, look at us, yeah. No, it is about jumping into people's lives and helping them, because what I've learned about Jesus is that he makes my life better. It makes me better at life. So why would I not want people to experience that? I want you to experience the Jesus that I know, where I can walk in freedom and I can walk in grace and mercy. I can walk in the hope of tomorrow being a better day because Jesus is on it. Why would I not want to share that with people? And so I want to share that not in a way to get one more person to find Jesus. It's not about a score sheet. It's about, why would I keep the best secret a secret? It shouldn't be a secret. Go tell the world, and that's what we're trying to do today. And maybe you hear Kristen and you've gone, okay, I'm 3 weeks into this giant stuff, Scott, and I've been praying, God, take my giant away. Gone with you. Be done with you. I don't want any more of it. Kristen, you ever been there with your struggle with depression?
Yeah. Well, at its worst, I'm like, why is this happening to me? Why won't it go away? Jesus, I'm praying and I'm asking you to please take this away. And sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it's just me really being intentional and like staying and reading the Bible and listening to worship music and getting in the mindset that you are worth the grace. And sometimes I just need to have conversations with people and be like, if I disappointed you, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for it just is a process, and it has to be a mental mindset that I have to get in, which is so hard, because then there's that voice that tells you to just not do that, because it just makes sense. I don't know. It's just, if you know, you know. I don't know.
But I think here's one of those things that she's trying to, like, if you know, you know. We all know it. If you don't struggle with anxiety or depression, but you struggle with something else, you understand it. Why do I constantly struggle with the things I don't want to struggle with? Why do I struggle with anger when I know I shouldn't get angry? I shouldn't yell at my kids. I shouldn't lie, but I keep lying. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't look at that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I constantly struggle. It's the same ism. We're all humans, and we all have this, what we're talking about today. We just need to apply it to our ism. It might not be a mental thing today. It could be the lying tongue, or you look at pornography, or you have sticky fingers, you like to steal things, or you are in the middle of looking at another marriage ending yours. I don't know where your story is in your life, but here's the deal. You've got to apply the principles we're talking about today. And one of the stories that, when I say story, it sounds like it's like Once Upon a Time or Far, Far Away in a Galaxy, you know, or it's the Hobbit story. The stories we're talking about, they're eyewitness accounts. They're real life people documenting things. If you jump on my YouTube channel, that's the way I document life. You can go back over the last 3 years and you can see the life evolution of Scott and Holly and our family, and then one wheeling and all. That's the way I document it. And when you jump into the Bible, it's the way men and women documented what God was doing. It's their style of logging, if you will. And it's God speaking to us through it. We get to learn about God's character. We get to learn about who Jesus was when you get to the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which those are the Gospels of the Bible. That's where we get connected with Jesus, where grace is alive and in the skin. And so, I mean, if you don't have a Bible, download the Bible app. It's free. And then start reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and pay attention when Jesus speaks. And then try to apply it. That's a great way to start a relationship with Jesus. Just try to be like him. And so we got this guy named Paul who encounters Jesus after Jesus died on the cross, goes back to heaven. Paul's running around on earth killing Christians, and on his way to go travel somewhere to kill a bunch of more Christians, he has an encounter with Jesus. It's an aha moment. He's like, whoa, Jesus is real. At one point he thought it was just a made up thing that people were just like It was just a fad, and so he was just trying to eliminate it, and then all of a sudden he's encountered with Jesus, and in that encounter, his life forever changes. He changes his name from Saul to Paul, because Saul was his former, like, bad boy self. He's like, I don't want to be known as that, the guy that goes around killing people. And his name gets changed to Paul. He becomes a great author documenting what God was doing in the early church. And he wrote heaps of the New Testament. If you're unfamiliar with that, you got the Old Testament, that's pre-Jesus. And then you have the New Testament, which was during Jesus' life and after Jesus went to heaven. And so in the New Testament, Paul writes, and he writes to churches that he started along the way and teaching them principles, and he gets real vulnerable. Just like Kristen's getting vulnerable today, Paul gets really vulnerable. And maybe so many of you can relate to this. Maybe this is the moment, the aha thing. You're like, I relate to that so well. Maybe you've been under the myth that God should get rid of everything I ask for, that when I pray, that every prayer should be just poof, like that. If that's the kind of God you're serving, that's magic, okay? That's not the God we're serving. God has a big plan, and he knows what's going on. And Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 12, he writes these words to a church being real vulnerable. In order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. I want to pause there for a second as we jump into Paul being vulnerable. He goes, listen, I got issues. And there's heaps of people out there with different thoughts of what he struggled with. Some say epilepsy, and heaps of other thoughts. So it's some ailment that he just can't shake. And he's pleaded. It's not like I asked nicely, hey, Jesus, if you're not busy right now, if you're done snowboarding right now, I like it if you would just help me out here. It's not. He's like, plead. Oh, God, where are you at? I am tired of struggling with this. It hurts me. I'm embarrassed by this. Take it away from me. So I don't think he's saying he only asked 3 times. I think he's just saying, I got in an argument with God 3 times. And that's okay. That's the kind of God we serve. He's got big boy pants on. He can handle it when we get a little rough with him, saying, God, where are you at? He wants to hear our vulnerability. And so if it takes you getting vulnerable with God, it's time to get vulnerable with God, sharing your dislike with what's happening in your life right now. That's conversation, also known as prayer. And so Paul 3 times pleads, and then this is the outcome of it. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Whew. But we don't like that version. We don't like that version that, wait, in my weakness, God is actually, his grace is shown. Yeah, because when we struggle with our stuff, but we still can find our way out of the bed and get into life and carry a little bit of peace and joy, well, that's not my strength, that's God. When I conquer my giant, it's not because I'm stronger, smarter, and better than anyone else. It's because I grabbed a hold of the grace and mercy that are new every morning. God, I'm going to face my giant, and I need your wisdom. I need your strength. I need your blessing. I need you to walk with me. Actually, God, I need you to walk before me. I need you to be my shield. I need you to be my protector. God, I need peace that surpasses all understanding. That's the God we are serving. That's the God that's on the job for me and for you. And walking in those truths is the beginning of overcoming our giants or overcoming these things. And this isn't a clap on, clap off situation where you clap your hands and lights go on, go off. It isn't that fast. It takes a lifetime. It takes a process. And maybe you've pleaded with God 3 times or 300 times. You're like, I still am dealing with this. Does God not love me? Has he forgotten about me? No. May we turn our perspective in going, when I'm weak, he is strong. His grace comes into my life so that I rest on his grace and not my strength. And that's hard because as humans, we want to be self-sufficient. We don't want to depend on anyone. Oh man, if anything that's created in the culture of the world right now, as all the pandemic things are going on, everybody wants to be self-sufficient, move out, run our own electricity. We want to knit our own clothes, grow our own food. I don't know if really you want to do that. I mean, knitting your clothes, I don't think I'd be very good at it. But you get what I'm saying. We want to be self-sufficient. We don't need God, we don't need people, but that's dangerous. So maybe you find yourself pleading 3 times and you're still dealing with it. You need to have something in your mind that triggers you back to the grace. His grace is sufficient. His grace can overcome a multitude of wrongdoing. When we talked about earlier, back to the definition, because we talked about its free and unmerited favor of God as manifested in salvation. Salvation is where we encounter Jesus and say, oh, Jesus is, I'm not perfect. Jesus makes us perfect. Salvation is, I was once lost, but now I'm found. I believe Jesus is the Son of Man. That's the salvation process where we are saying no to the old desires, the sin. And I know that's a turnoff to so many of you. It's like, oh, there's that religious term, sin. We're all sinners. Hold up. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. We all are a hot mess, okay? We got issues. We have treated people poorly. We've not loved them first. We've loved ourselves first, and therefore we've created this issue. We've hurt people. That's the sin. A great illustration is we've missed the mark. Perfection is the goal. No one of us are perfect. So in missing the mark, Jesus is what moves our mark back to the bullseye. You need Jesus, and that's where his grace going, I see what you did, but I forgive you. I see what you said to your spouse last night in anger. I forgive you. I saw what you saw the other day on the computer. And can I pause there for a moment? And this is not in my notes, but I'm going to pause there for a second. Those that are struggling with pornography, do yourself a favor and get help to stop looking at that stuff. Get yourself a new phone. Put programs on your laptop or your computer so that you're not tempted, that you stop doing, because here's the deal, that so many of those images and people you see on those computers, they're not doing that for the money. They have been robbed from some family member and they're a slave to that industry, and you're just fueling that industry. Stop. It's breaking my heart. I can't imagine one of my daughters getting pulled out of my family and all of a sudden seeing her in some kind of video where people get turned on by. Stop. It's not good for you or good for other people. If you are struggling with it, here's the moment of you going, I'm weak, I need help. You don't need to put it in the chat, okay? That's not what we're saying. I can feel the tension going, you want me to text this? No, I don't want to text it in the chat. I want you to go tell it with somebody in person. Or you can text the number and we can get you some help. You gotta have accountability with it. It's not gonna be something you can break, because that stuff is addicting. It reprocesses the brain. You gotta have some help to end it, okay? And so I'm getting on a soapbox there because it breaks my heart. It will break your marriage and your relationships. Now psychologists aren't even attached to Jesus, are saying it's bad for you. They're just late to the game, okay? Because Jesus was saying heaps of years ago, like thousands of years ago, it's bad for you, okay? So off my soapbox, it's nowhere in my notes, and I'm not condemning anyone. It's just like anxiety, depression, and all this. It's just something we gotta add. What we're talking about, we gotta add stuff to it. Grace. We need grace. It's unwarranted, and that's what makes it hard for us. And so I want to read a story. Again, real life story from 1 Chronicles 21, chapter 10. It's about one of my favorite men in the Bible besides Jesus, King David, Old Testament, way back. Okay, let me set up the scenario. If you write it down, you can go read it later because we're running out of time here. Write down 1 Samuel chapter 21, verse 10. Just read chapter 21, okay? It's so good. But David gets this, I want to take a census. A census is where they count everybody. And David knew that he wasn't supposed to do that. Like he felt this nudge. We talk about a tap on the shoulder, a nudge, like where you get butterflies in your stomach. You know, that one was for me. Maybe it's happening already today. You're like, that's for me. I need to work on that. And David knew that he should not count his kingdom. Because a lot of times when we start counting stuff, puffs our chest out a little bit. Look at what I've done and done well, and look at me, our kingdom's better. And so David wakes up one day, I'm going to read this whole story, and he goes, we're going to take a census today. Let's count everybody. Disobedient to what God has told him, don't take the census. And then let me just pause there as well. There's oftentimes God tells you to stop doing something, and you're like, well, why isn't it for everybody? Because you have an ism in that area in your life. They don't. And so oftentimes God will speak to me on a topic that he doesn't speak on other people. But when I find myself going, well, if God's telling me to work on that, everyone needs to work on it. That's not true. You stay in your lane. When God nudges your heart, you be obedient to what God is telling you. Because sometimes you're not going to read through the Bible and he's not going to speak for just precisely to your situation. But here we go. David goes, here he is. Here it is. Don't take a census, David. And David goes and takes a census. Therefore, he enters in being disobedient, misses the mark. And now all of a sudden there's consequences for it. And David, oops, I'm in trouble. A prophet comes to David and says, bro, here's the deal. You did wrong. And so we're going to jump into the rest of the story in 1 Corinthians 21. Go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I'm going to give you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. So this is God saying, David, oops, you screwed up. I'm giving you 3 options to pick from. 1, 2, or 3, you pick your punishment because I told you don't do this. And this is some of you guys' rub. There it is. God up there with just waiting to zap me with a lightning bolt. No. Consequences remind us how to stay in our lane. My children, we have 8 of them. Holly and I have 8 wonderful children. A lot of you have questions. How did you end up with 8? I don't know. Okay? Don't ask me. I haven't figured it out yet. With 8 children, my kids experience consequences on a daily, okay? Why is that? Because I want to punish them because I'm mad at them? No, because I want to keep them in a lane going towards Jesus, going, hey, that's not putting other people first. That's selfishness. That's not loving one another. And so we have consequences that step in to help shape and form them. That's where we step in here with God. God stepping in with David going, hold on. I'm not going to destroy you, but I want you to be reminded to be obedient to the things I speak to you. So, verse 11. So carry out against you. Verse 11. So Gad went to David and said to him, this is what the Lord says. Take your choice. 3 years of famine, 3 months of being swept away before your enemies with the sword overtaking you, or 3 days of the sword of the Lord. Days of plagues in the land, with the angel of the Lord ravaging every part of Israel. Now then decide how I should answer this, the one who sent me. And David said to Gad, I am in deep distress. Let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great. But do not let me fall into the hands of man. Listen, David chose grace. David chose grace. He had an opportunity to choose something other than grace, and he said, I understand with God, he's got grace, and maybe he'll be merciful on me. Maybe it won't be it won't be as severe, because God is not a God, a revengeful God going, zoo, 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 I'm zapping you. He is always teaching and molding us to become more like him. It's not consequences to discipline. It's consequences to raise us up to be more like him. And maybe I should stop using the words of consequence because it's got a negative vibe to it. But that's where grace is new every morning. God, give me your grace and mercy. Forgive me of my wrongdoings. Forgive me for not trusting you. Forgive me for the thoughts. Forgive me. Just constantly go back to forgiveness. But as Kristen shared earlier, it's a vicious cycle because you're going to go, I'm not worthy of grace. It's unmerited. We are, honestly, every one of us, every last one of us, we are not deserving of grace. 4 different ways to handle grace, okay, as we wrap this up. This is 4 different ways people handle grace. 1 is, I'll indulge myself. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. It's pleasurable, I enjoy it, I get a high, it feels good, so I will constantly do it. When I put people down, though I know I'm supposed to build them up, I feel better, so I'm just gonna keep doing that because, man, the other seems like a lot of work. 2, I'll compare myself. There are worse people out there. So it makes us feel better about our situation. Oh yeah, there's other people that really struggle with this. I'm just at the beginning, so I'm good. My marriage is just okay. It's not great, but there are people with worse marriages, and then all of a sudden that's dangerous to go down that road. 3, I'll save myself. I'll do great works to get get back into the right standings with God. I'll save myself. I'll do the work. And then the other one is I'll trust my life in God's grace. Decide to choose the 4th. Now, Kristen, let me ask you, is it true to say that I'll save myself, I'll do great works to get myself back into standing with God? Have you ever been there where you said, that's how I'll get myself out of this cycle?
Yeah, absolutely, because in my brain, when I don't think I deserve grace, I'm like, okay, that's fine, I don't deserve the grace, but I'm just going to do all these good things, and I'm going to be super great, and then I'll be able to get the grace. And it's just this which isn't true. I mean, you get the grace either way, but you just have to accept it. And I sometimes don't accept it, and then in my mind I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do so that I can deserve the grace, and it evens out like the sin that I did to now the grace that I get.
Yeah, I like how she even has the scale out, right? What is that scale called that tips both ways? It's not a balancing scale. Come on, there's a real word for that.
Weight scale?
Somebody's going to have it in the chat
don't know.
already. But there's a real word from it, a balancing scale. You know what I'm talking about, where you put one weight over here and you add, right? That's what we're trying to do when we're managing ourselves. Well, this is how bad of what I just did, so I've got to do all of these things to even it back out. You can't do enough to outdo the wrong that you've done that's so hard to figure out. Jesus is He's the way he tips the other junk off the weight, and you're set free. You've got to take a hold of that grace today. It is free for you to grab a hold of, but will you? Will you? For you that don't know who Jesus is, it's taking a hold of Jesus and his grace. I believe Jesus is the grace. I'm going to latch onto that with the talons of an eagle. I'm never letting go of it because I need his grace. Scott Mendenhall, I need his grace every day. The authors in the Bible say his grace is new every morning. It's new every morning. It's a reset where we're like, but yesterday, I did this, and we just take it on and on with us. And we're wrapping up here with one last great real life story in the Bible. If you want to read along with it, you can turn to Luke chapter 7, verse 36. This is a phenomenal story. I'm going to tell it in a way that's faster just because I don't want to read all of it at the moment. I might jump into it at different points. But Luke chapter 7, verse 36, Luke is an eyewitness account of Jesus doing his stuff. Luke was a doctor, so he looked at a lot of the miracles, and that's the way he told the stories, was through that lens. Luke is a phenomenal author, so jump into that if you really want eyewitness accounts of what Jesus went through. You want to see the miracles that Jesus did, and when you see the miracles of what Jesus did, think about it. Jesus raised people from the dead, and you can go, yeah, that's believable. Jesus walked on the water, and you read those stories, that's believable. But why do we struggle with grace then? If you can believe those stories took place, and eyewitness accounts are validifying that, there's material to prove it, there's scientific ways to prove that those things happen. If you believe those things, now why are you struggling with the grace? Take a hold of the grace. The enemy wants you to struggle with grace because it keeps us down, and we can't walk with peace and joy and understanding for others. When we don't give grace to ourselves, then we don't give grace to others, and we don't give grace to others, there's relationship breakdowns. If you are finding yourself in a moment right now where you have an ism with people, if you have a problem with other people, then you've got to give yourself grace and them grace. See, we often don't restore relationships because it's a struggle with grace. And Jesus comes in and says, and you all know this is old school, but just let me refresh all of us on this people stuff. Jesus' greatest commandment is to love God with all of your heart, mind, and soul. Everything you are to love God. That's it. And then he goes on, but hold on. Just as equal is to love your neighbor as yourself. 3 things. I always say it this way. I think every week we can say this because we're humans, so we get rubbed by other people. If you're not at peace with someone, if you're not at peace with a friend of yours, you're not at peace with God. And therefore, you've got to go fix your ism with the people to be back in peace with God. Or if you don't like yourself, maybe the depression and the anxiety is making you hate yourself, then you've got to get at peace with yourself so you can be back in right positioning with God. And why would I say that? You're like, well, that's kind of bold to say. But think about it. When we go to take communion, which is where we take part of the bread and the wine, and we remember what Jesus did, Jesus says, hey, if you've got an issue with somebody, go fix it before you do this. Because he's saying, hey, if you got a problem with somebody else, then we have a problem. So issue grace to that friend that you so badly need in your own life, and you will watch restoration in your own personal stuff and in their lives. So maybe some of you need to set up conversations today through text, through emails, preferably through a phone call, or if you feel comfortable with going meeting them, apologize, restore the relationship, and you will see a newfound peace in your entire life. Be at peace with all 3, God, people, and you. And you will see that you will walk through these things in your life differently because you're taking hold of grace and you're issuing grace to others. Let's wrap up with Luke chapter 7. Pharisees throw a party. Pharisees were the religious people of the day. They bring Jesus over. They're all laying back, having a good old time. Woman walks in and dumps oil on Jesus. Historians say the jar of oil that she's going to, or perfume, is a year's wages, okay? So think about that. Every dollar you earn over this year, you spent on one jar of perfume, which is laughable, right? And then, because you're like, that's crazy to spend that amount on perfume. She comes and dumps it on Jesus. And the Pharisees freak out. They're like, if you knew who this woman was and what she did, you would never let her. You would never let her get that close. And then Jesus, in his just I love how the way he words things. He's so sharp and wise. He turns to his disciples and he goes, I have something to tell you. This is verse 40. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owe money to a certain moneylender. One owed 500 denarii, which is just their amount of money. The other 50. Neither of them had money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon replies, I suppose the one with the bigger debt. Forgiven. You judged correctly, he said. Then he turned towards the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them off with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I've entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Your sins are forgiven, he turns to the woman. To me, that's powerful. So I want you for a moment, wherever you're at, house parties, if there's kids running around, hanging from chandeliers and stuff, we do have kids stuff coming soon for Sunday mornings. We're working on it, and so hang tight. But I want you to tell them, be quiet for a second. Put your phone down. I want you to answer this question inside. Do you recognize that you've been forgiven a lot? Because when we recognize how much we've been forgiven of, it turns to a worth to Jesus. Our love for Christ, for Jesus, increases. But when we think we've not really been forgiven, or we haven't grabbed a hold of the concept of grace, and that I've actually been forgiven a lot, then we don't have much of worth to Jesus. It's value. It's looking, oh man, I was messed up. I was once lost, but now I see. Imagine yourself blind. I mean, I can remember, and I constantly ask Jesus to never let me forget. I remember what it was like to be without Jesus. It was dark. The hope was gone. There was no peace. It was tragedy. Like, that's how I can just describe it. Tragic in my life. I wasn't laughing as much. And I was young, and I remember it still this day. When Jesus entered my life, when I say enter my life, I'm trying to be like Jesus. When that happened, it all changed. I was lost, but now I'm found. Have you ever thought about that? Think about when you were little and you were lost. I remember at Walmart being lost. I was hiding in a clothes rack. And then I was like, crap, mom and dad are gone. And now I'm running around Walmart. And maybe that's why I don't shop at Walmart anymore. It's a bad experience for me. And so I remember being lost. But when I was found, my mom hugged me. She didn't scream at me and go, well, shame on you. She's like, I've missed you. That's the grace that Jesus isn't going, I can't believe you struggle with depression. What's wrong with you? I built you better than that. No, he goes, I got you. I love you for who you are. Do you recognize you have been forgiven a lot? And when you do, may you turn around and share that with other people, inviting them to church, taking a chance, a moment to say, come with me. I want to share the hope with you. Now that you've thought through and processed that, would you write, because this is the part that will encourage other people, something that I'm not even going to give you the words. I want you to write your words of what you're feeling in this moment about Jesus. And maybe you hear all this, you're like, okay, I believe Jesus is who you're talking about. It starts with the belief. Belief to action gives results. We don't act something first and then get convinced. We believe first, then we have actions. It starts with the belief that Jesus is who he said he is, and you can take a hold of the grace, and you can today. So I wrap up with this question. What is Jesus saying to you, and what are you going to do about it today? And maybe write that down in the comments. What's Jesus saying to you? Let me pray for you guys. God, I pray for everyone watching across the world that right now you are nudging hearts right now where people, they have just been trying to manage or suppress their guilt. They would take a hold of your grace every day, and they would begin to live in peace in the bright light, and they would be excited about their new life in you, that they're going to take a hold of the grace, and they're going to say no to fear. They're going to say no to guilt and shame. They're going to stop looking backwards and pulling their past with them. They're going to recognize that you have set us free of our past. We do not take that into tomorrow. As we take a hold of your grace, it ends today. The shame and the guilt ends today with you in the picture. May we tattoo it on our arms, in our cars, on the mirrors, that we need to see ourselves through the grace lens, not the shame lens. We need to see ourselves how you see us and not how we see ourselves. God, you set people free today of their guilt and shame. That they would be rescued once and for all and walk through life not shameful or guilt for what they said and did and hated and looked at. That we would turn a corner and become more like you today, taking a hold of salvation, taking a hold of who you are, and may the truth permeate every last bit of us. That it wouldn't be lip service, that it wouldn't just be we know cliche things to encourage somebody else, but it would be a thing inside us that is real and growing, and people will start to see the light that shines in the darkness. That our light would trump all the bad and the negativity, not because of who we are, but who we know. That is, if we've prayed for 3 years and we're still dealing with it, that we would recognize your grace is sufficient. Maybe a reminder of when we are weak, there is grace for us. When we see us in our nasty, sinful lives, but we also see the grace, would it remind us of who you are? And may we have a picture of how much we've been forgiven and not compare ourselves. Well, my past wasn't like that. But we look at it and say, Jesus, forgive me one last time, and walk away from it. Jesus, may we hear of hope-filled stories this week where people are walking into the work week light and bright and excited about the future because they see it through you and your grace. Who the Son sets free is free indeed. We are no longer shackled to our past and the wrong things we thought and seen. We are free. So may we float like a butterfly, Jesus. We love you. In your name, amen. I hope that comes through. I got fired up there. Woo. I hope it came through on your screens. And thank you so much for watching. This is not lip service today. This is not me getting excited just for excited. It's something I'm passionate about because Jesus has changed my life, has set so many of us free. People always are asking on those one-minute videos, why can we laugh? And even when Lily's one, people are like, I can't believe she's in good spirits. We're not attached to stuff. We're trying to attach to the grace. And that gives us the ability to just, okay, man, one wheel's broken. Hey, let's see what story comes of it. Jesus is in control. So that said, Lily's on the other side of the studio.
Hello!
Good to have you there, Lil.
Scott, thank you for your heart. Man, that passion, you can just feel it. I hope it was coming through your phone speakers, your TV speakers. We are passionate.
Joey was on the other side, right? Just like, beating his chest like he just won a one-woman video. It's so good. It's so good.
We are passionate to see you and to walk through whatever it is, the messes of life together, because we're all in it. And Scott, thank you for the message today. That was so good. I'm amped. I'm fired up. But we want to give you guys a chance to give here at Unlocked Church, unlockedchurch.com, Unlocked Church YouTube. It wouldn't be possible. All of this wouldn't be possible without your generosity and your continued faithfulness. And if you're in a spot today where you're like, I want to get where Kristen is, walking out of what seemed like the shadow of the valley of death, or what feels like the shadow of the valley of death, wherever you are, this is the one area where God says, test me. And maybe you're ready to just jump way in. Maybe you're on that edge of the cliff, and after that message, you're like, okay, God, I hear you loud and clear. That's what that whole question, what is Jesus saying to me and what am I gonna do about it, is action, okay? And so maybe you wanna jump way in. Here's a great opportunity. Give. Giving for me is a great way to test God, a great way to put him to the test and say, okay, I'm gonna give a portion of what I've made so that I can do what his word says and test him and watch where he works. And I give, and then after I say, okay, God, may you give me the eyes to see where you want to show up and show off after this. So if you're ready to jump way in, here's a great opportunity to do that. We make giving super simple here at Unlock. You can text the word unlock to 77977, or you can go to unlockedchurch.com/give. Like I said, it would not be possible without without your generosity. And so we just want to say thank you. And again, we love you guys so much, and we're so grateful to be able to do life with you. Here at Unlock, we have tons of upcoming events, but there's one specifically today that we want to talk about. Kristen and Scott are in the studio with me, and we want to honor our schools.
Yeah, so on tonight, this evening, wherever you are in the world, we want you to write a cheerleading sign is what I always picture it as, but rooting on the teachers. That they, you know, it's tough. I know a lot of parents are going, but hold on my end, it's tough. Yes, we understand that. But the amount of emails and negativity those teachers are feeling right now, we want to be a voice of encouragement to them. So, thanks for being a great teacher. Do some cheesy teacher line.
Something about an apple, maybe.
You get an A in our books.
A ruler.
But don't just give a ruler.
With a ruler.
There you go.
That's so fun.
And then go to your local school, wherever you are in the world, down in Florida, West Virginia, South Dakota, Wales. Go to those places, California, Colorado. I saw those were also represented today. And go to a local school and just put a sign there. And if you want to be a part of the movement, just hashtag Unlock Church. And then we'll be able to see what everybody's doing part of Unlock Church. We can follow the hashtag on the sign, hashtag Unlock Church. And then those teachers can look at the hashtag and go see it's happening in a global perspective. So we would love it if you would do that, okay? Please do that. Your local school, even if you're homeschooling right now, or you're like, hey, but my teachers are only online right now. We checked in with the local schools here. Most teachers are still showing up at the school to do the things daily. So please take care of that. We would love you for that. Lastly, we would like to give you a chance to earn some of these hoodies. Here's what we're gonna do. If you go and subscribe to our channel, turn on this bell notification, and leave a comment on the actual video down below, not in the live chat, down below, about what you experienced today. Then when we get our first hoodies in, we will mail you one, okay? So the only way you're gonna know is if you do those things. If you're already subscribed, then you gotta go turn on bell notification and go down below and leave a comment, and next week we'll tell you who wins the hoodie.
All good.
Okay?
So good.
Lily, we have small groups. Wrap it up with that.
We do. We have tons of small groups this week that you can jump into. If you're a kid, you can come and hang out with me on Friday at 4 p.m. If you are an adult and you need some adult time, we have a lot of fun on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. all Central Time. And if you are a student in middle school or high school, Joey and his wife Michaela and some of the rest of the team here today will be in the studio on Wednesday at 7 p.m. starting on a GoToMeeting and then heading to an experience just like this. So lots of ways for you to jump in, and we want you to get connected, so go to unlockchurch.com. Wherever you are, it's all digital. The beauty of digital is that you can connect with us throughout the week as well.
We're excited about next week's topic. We're going to do facing your giants or slaying giants, whatever sounds really cool to you, that's what we're calling it. Next week, we're gonna talk about self-perception or what other people think of you. That's the giant we're going to talk about. And that's a doozy in this culture, in this world. As we, especially in Western culture, we are in a political season, so everybody's concerned, can I put this in my yard? What will people think of me? Well, we're talking about, is that something you should actually worry about? That's what we're talking about next week. I'm excited about insecurity, the giant of insecurity. That's what it is.
That's a good, that's
giant
the
of
word.
Insecurity. Okay, that said, all students, make sure you're there Wednesday with Joey and the team, and with Lily on Friday. Right, Lil?
That's right. Can't wait to see you there.
Joey, for some reason, didn't want to jump into the camera. I don't know. He's in the chat room or something. But you'll see us in our One Wheel video. This one is over.